Hey everybody, I want to talk to you a little bit about our services tomorrow and let you know what I have found out. I want to communicate some things with you that I have found out this week that has helped other churches be able to meet person to person in the face of this coronavirus pandemic. First of all, though, I want to just mention again the message that I preached last week on Christian liberties. And I mentioned in 1 Corinthians 10, 23 through 28, the Apostle Paul said that we are free to do all things, but he said not all things are good for the common good. And then he went on to say, when it come to food, as it related to all of the brethren in the church, he said that there are some that couldn't eat meat conscientiously. And so Paul said this. He said that if a brother is offended or his conscience is hurt by eating meat, then he said for his conscience sake, then he said, I won't eat meat. And then it goes on to say in verse 29, why should my freedom to act be limited by another person's conscience? And the Apostle Paul said, if I thank God for my food, why should anyone criticize me about food for which I give thanks? And then in verse 31 he says, well, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, this is the main point, he said, do everything for God's glory. In verse 32, he said, I live in such a way as to cause no trouble either to Jew or Gentile or to the church of God. He said, just do as I do. I try to please everyone in all things, not thinking of my own good, but the good of all. What Paul said was he had Christian liberty to eat meat or not eat it. But in some cases, when his Christian liberty would hurt the conscience of a weaker brother, he said, it's my practice then to think of other people, to think of the common good, and I'll eat meat later. In other words, he said, I won't demand my liberty. Now, in the case of this virus, there are some of us who are weaker than others, some who are healthier than others. And so we need to remember that the purpose of our coming together and meeting together is for the big picture. It's for the good of everyone. And so Paul said that he would consider his brother. I think we need to do the same thing. So with that said, I want to share with you what I found out this week. I have contacted 8 large churches, 7 in Texas and 1 in Illinois. And I've asked them what they're doing in order to be able to meet and have worship services and other activities with the coronavirus pandemic. I've contacted on a local level Moberly Baptist Church, Woodland Hills Baptist Church. I've called and spoke with a person on the church staff from the Moody Church in Chicago. I've talked with staff people at First Baptist Church, Texarkana. I talked yesterday with Kristen at First Baptist Church, Dallas. I spoke with First Baptist Church, Nacogdoches, First Baptist Church, Tyler, and even Cornerstone Church in San Antonio, John Hagee's church. And these are the guidelines that they use to be able to safely meet together and have their worship services together. What I have found in talking to the staff of these churches and our own people, 2 things I'm hearing most of all from these different churches and folks is this. Number one, I'm lonely. I miss my Christian friends and fellowship. And number 2, I feel so very disconnected. Well, I'm glad to say we can correct that. We can correct it if we work together. These churches have corrected it. And the reason that they're able to correct it is because they have worked together, and folks are helping one another, and they're encouraging one another, and they are considering the good of the whole. I think for an hour and a half on Sunday morning, we ought to be able to stand on our heads in order to be able to meet again and to worship the Lord. There's an answer, and this is it. This is what these churches are doing. First of all staff and Sunday school teachers and people who are helping the staff wear face coverings and gloves. It is also true that they are making face coverings available when anyone walks up to the church, and for all who may need them. They are not demanding face coverings, but they are encouraging it. Hand sanitizer is being made available at the door. They have folks that are standing at the door as the congregation walks through the door. They are giving them hand sanitizer, and the purpose of that is to be able to make sure that everyone's hands are sanitized before they touch anything in the auditorium. Social distancing is practiced. Every other pew will be used. Now, it may be in our case, family groupings are encouraged to sit together. And for example, the Baileys and the McGarveys are going to take up more than one pew. So it may be that they take up 2 pews and then we skip a pew. But we're going to practice social distancing. And to solve those that are at risk problem, we have some folks in our church, due to their age or due to other physical concerns that they have, they feel vulnerable. So what we'll do is we'll have all the overflow go into the fellowship hall. It may be in the morning when you get here that there's no room left in the auditorium. If that's the case, we'll ask you to go to the fellowship hall, and the service will be video, how do you say that, Jack? Simulcast into the fellowship hall. So everybody in the fellowship hall will be able to see the service, probably closer up than those that's in the auditorium. So the fellowship hall will be used for overflow, but it'll also be used for those who feel vulnerable, who have some condition due to their age or other things, and they don't want to sit around a lot of people. In the fellowship hall, we'll have plenty of room for them to sit and participate in the service without being close to other people. The nursery. Tomorrow, when you get here, this is how we'll handle the concerns in the nursery. Of course, all the staff will wear masks and gloves. And what these other churches are doing is they are taking children by appointment only. We're not going to do that. I don't think we'll need to do that. They're watching the kids, and they're allowing them to play with only hard surfaced toys. They watch little Johnny play. When he's finished playing, they pick that toy up and wipe it off immediately. Before it's put back in the box, so then if another child picks it up to play with it, it'll already be clean. What we're doing for disinfecting in the auditorium, we're going to be using a ULV disinfectant fogger with disinfectant that these other churches are using, and the same thing will occur in the nursery. So everything will be taken care of, sanitized, and clean every time you come into these buildings. If you'll look at the bulletin tomorrow, When you come, there'll be dates and activities that are planned, rollouts that are planned for the future, and you'll be able to see what those dates are and what'll come roll out on that particular day, whether it's Sunday school or whatever. So, in review quickly, all staff will be wearing face coverings and gloves. Face coverings are encouraged but not demanded. On the table outside before you come in the auditorium, we'll have face masks available. Shana also has some bracelets, and there are 3 different colors, a red, a green, and a yellow. If you pick the green bracelet, this is what it means. Or the green bracelet says, I am okay with hugs and high fives. If you're okay with shaking hands and hugging people, then you pick up a green bracelet and put it on, and what that'll do, that'll help people know how you feel about a thing. It's hard to know. We just don't know whether to toe tap, elbow tap, knuckle tap, hug, kiss, brace. It's hard to know what to do. So when you see somebody with this green bracelet on, it means they're okay with high fives and with hugs. If you see somebody with the yellow bracelet on, you'll know that they're okay with talking but not touching. Okay? I'll just talk to you all you want to, just don't shake my hand, hug me, or kiss me. If you see somebody with the red bracelet on, you know that they just are not comfortable with shaking hands or being too close to people. So just honor their feelings and don't get too close to them. They just don't want that yet. So these will be on the table. Mask will be on the table when you come in. If you forget a mask, we'll have masks at every service. We're going to do the same thing every Sunday. And when you walk through the door, there'll be somebody there to give you hand sanitizer as you go in the door. Overflow. If you don't want to go to the fellowship hall and sit in the fellowship hall and watch the service live streamed over there, then get here earlier the next week. We're doing all we can do to be able to solve this problem of feeling disconnected and lonely. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to meet back together. And we can do that if we work together. If we just will be okay for an hour and a half every Sunday to think of the good of everyone, we can have what we had before this mess all started. And there's no reason why we can't get together and do that. I mean, if you go in Walmart with a nail apron on begrudgingly because they say you have to, and there's nobody in there that you necessarily personally love, but you go in there with a face, surely to goodness, for the family of God, your family, your church family, for the good and the sake of everybody, so we all can worship together again. And because you love us, you love one another, because you're and aware that there's some weaker and more vulnerable for whatever reasons, and they want to come too. Surely to goodness, for an hour and a half, we can do this and smile and be happy. So there's a rollout for tomorrow that works. It's working in big churches all over this state. And it can work for Pine Forest Baptist Church. I know you want it to work. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the morning and be here with Bible in hand. We're going to sing. We're going to enjoy one another. Some of us are going to give hugs and high fives. Some of us are going to just shake hands and be careful or just talk to one another. And some folks just want to come and enjoy it all and not be pressured to do any kissing or breathing on one another yet. And we can do that at 10 a.m. And look in the bulletin. Keep the bulletins this week so you know how the rollouts are going to be going forward. I love y'all. I'll see you in the morning.